Nvidia did the unthinkable and canceled itself. Microsoft hasn't been keeping you secure, and AMD is going to slow down production of Ryzen 7000 because y'all ain't buying it. Let's get into the hot news, everybody. I'm your Brett host. We're going to be going over the hottest tech news that I can find on the internet while you enjoy your breakfast. And before we get into the hot news, just a couple of housekeepings. It is the week of the event. We have the Cannonball for the Cure charity stream coming up this Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern. We're going to have tons of fun. We got big sponsors coming up and a ton of giveaways, including 30 LTT screwdrivers that we're going to be giving away along the drive, as well as this $1,500 PC sponsored by LTTstore.com themselves, which features a pretty decent setup. $1,500 you're going to be able to get this on the drive itself. But in case you can only watch, you can't meet us there, we're going to have a ton of other prizes. Like we have this PC right here, which is a Ryzen 7 7700X, a 3090 Ti, 32 gigs of RAM. It's a whole beefing system. That's not even the best thing. We just got confirmation on Friday that NZXT is sponsoring a Ryzen 9 7900X plus RTX 4090 PC, plus their lift mouse, their Canvas 27Q monitor, plus a mini TKL keyboard for a whole shebanging setup. But we'll also be giving away a 6950 XT. We got a PlayStation 5. We got a gaming projector. We've got a gaming monitor. We've got other prizes for you to win. It's gonna be a big deal. It's gonna be very exciting. I'm very much looking forward to it. Obviously, we're raising money to cure my son's rare disease, so that it's very personal to me, but I'm always so glad when we can actually get companies to rally behind us and then also do some great giveaways for the community. However, if you want to help support the production costs that go into this event, plus get some dope t-shirts, we actually have our merch store now live, linked in the video description for this year's Cannonball for the Cure charity event. You have ones like the traditional Cannonball for the Cure shirt. You also have the Cannonball for the Cure route. You also have Get In Nerds. We're curing rare diseases, which is my personal favorite, and Reese's personal favorite is this techwear design that you can see right here, slightly different than things we've done before, but that will be linked in the description in case you want to help support the production of what we're doing for the Cannonball for the Cure. So set your calendars. Friday at 9 a.m. we are leaving the Red Ball Garage in New York City to begin our live stream. It's going to be a ton of fun. Can't wait to see you there. And Nvidia couldn't wait to take your money with their RTX 4070, or as they named it, the RTX 4080 12 gig. But fear not, it came out on Friday. The biggest story over the weekend was that Nvidia is unlaunching this card, which everybody started using that word, and it was like, did somebody put out a press release where they used that word? And yes, it was Nvidia themselves that came out and said that they're unlaunching the 12 gigabyte 4080. That the RTX 4080 12 gigabyte is a fantastic card, but it's not named right. Having two GPUs with the 4080 designation is confusing. So we're pressing the unlaunch button on the 4080 12 gig. The 4080 16 gig is amazing and on track to delight gamers everywhere on November 16th. If the lines around the block and enthusiasm for the 4090 is any indication, the reception for the 4080 will be awesome, which by the way, we're also giving away a 4090 during the Cannonball, so that's gonna be like an actual honkin' 4090. So that's Nvidia spelling it out for us, what they're doing with the 4080 12 gig, which was supposed to come in at an MSRP of $900. And a lot of people celebrated Nvidia doing the right thing and not chowing on the wallets of consumers. However, I do have a few opinions that I want to just chuck on in here. None of this says that they're not going to launch the exact same card for $900. This is not Nvidia changing their strategy at all. They just said, hey, sorry we confused you, idiots. I'm sorry you couldn't handle things being called something different. We'll fix that for you. Also, number two, there's two different 3080s, the 10 gig and the 12 gig. That's not the problem. They've done this before as well, the 1063 gig and 6 gig. It's not like Nvidia hasn't done this before. And I mean, am I the only one who's getting like some condescension out of this? Am I reading too much into it that it's not named right and that it was confusing? They're not saying, hey, we're sorry that we tried to give you an 8103 chip for $900. And they're also not saying, hey, we're sorry for trying to charge you $1,200 for an 80 class chip. Can we not still acknowledge the fact that Nvidia is still charging a tremendous price premium for their 80 class chip, regardless of it's the 12 gig or the 16 gig? $1,200 for a card that launched the 3080 at $700. That's a $500 price increase in a single generation. granted, they can unlaunch the 4080 12 gig all they want. They're still stealing money out of your wallets and saying, hey, at least we got rid of the other thing. Am I right? We didn't screw you over that way. I'm not as upset with the 4090 because it technically is a Titan class card, where the $1,500 price point of the 3090 last generation and the $1,600 price point of this generation are in line with where Titan class cards used to be. That's not quite the issue, but the 80 class cards used to be much cheaper. The 2080 Ti coming in at $1,200. Now they're bumping up the 4080 to be that price point. They really are just determining to suckle every last morsel out of that sweet bank account that you have. No wonder Nvidia wants to say that Moore's Law is dead, because if it wasn't, they couldn't get away with justifying these prices. So Nvidia not apologizing for the pricing. I would not be surprised for them to come out and be like, you know what, that RTX 4080 12 gig are bad. You know what, we're gonna call this the RTX 4075. It's higher than a 4070, and we could justify that. Not quite a 4080, you guys were upset about that, but it's a 4075. It's a new entire class of card. Pay us your $900. I hope to be wrong here. I really want Nvidia to drop the price on it, come in closer, if it's a 70 class card, closer to that $500 price point for what they're trying to deliver. That's obviously not going to happen, so I'm gonna not hold my breath on this one of Nvidia doing right by the consumer. It does still seem like they are not. It's like the EVGA thing that happened, where they were like, oh yeah, we're so glad to let him go spend time with his family. Jets feels like he has all the power, and we buy his cards, so like, he's not wrong. But some of the questions that came up with this unlaunch announcement is, how is this going to affect board partners? Because these cards are supposed to launch in a month. They probably are printing boxes, getting coolers ready, all of the things that go in towards a product launch. And it turns out that they started taking them down from their website. All the major board partners taking these things off of their websites. But Steve from Gamers Nexus actually putting out a video where he's talked to a few of the AIB partners. And it turns out that Nvidia is saying that they will make up for the marketing issues of paying for the price of the boxes that now say the 4080 12 gig, which, I mean, this has happened before. They just slap a little sticker on it and be like, oh, that's now named the 4075. Let's ignore the 4080. It's not a big deal. Gamers Nexus saying that this could potentially be a problem where people might rip off the stickers later on and then try to sell it on eBay as that class of card. However, maybe the 4080 12 gig is just like not gonna exist, and they're gonna release a completely different card. That's entirely possible. There was a 3080 20 gigabyte at one point, and that never physically got released, but then ended up at Russian retailers many months down the line. So it could be one of those situations that is happening here. It's a confusing situation. Nvidia, I guess, somewhat listening to us. We actually kind of just have to see what the final response is, because unlaunching the card doesn't tell me that they're actually listening to the consumer, and instead they're just still gonna charge $1,200 for an 80 class card. Let me know what you think about this whole 4070, 4080, 12 gig debacle down below in those comments. And while you signed off about the 4070 situation, I'm gonna tell you about today's video sponsor. My friends, these are the lightweight breathable shoe that I love to wear everywhere. And in fact, last time we had them as a sponsor, somebody said, hey, I'll pay you $1,000 if you can find Brett not wearing his vesties, and you won't happen to see that because I wear them everywhere, especially when I went to TwitchCon last week and I had to walk over 10,000 steps a day. I did it all in my Vessi shoes. But they're not just my everyday shoes. I also use them to mow the lawn. Because of their knit design, they are waterproof and super breathable. So if the lawn is wet while I'm mowing, I don't have to worry about my socks getting wet because it's all gonna stay good. Also, they're incredibly slip-on, which is my favorite part because I don't actually have to tie my own shoes. It's fantastic all around. And in the design of the shoe, they make sure not to use any animal products so that they are 100% vegan. Lightweight, stretchy, breathable, waterproof, weatherproof. I can take them outside in any weather. My wife just got a pair of her boots so that we can survive the Pittsburgh winter, and it's gonna be great when she's actually able to not worry about slipping or have her socks get all wet from the melted snow. And you should go to vessi.com/UFD Tech and enter code UFD Tech when you're checking out to get $25 off, but make sure to do it quickly so that you get a pair of their shoes in your size. Again, go to vessi.com/UFD Tech and enter code UFD Tech to get $25 off. Big thanks to Vessi for sponsoring today's video. So Microsoft wants you to know that they're not protecting you, okay? There's been reports that Microsoft is automatically updating drivers behind the scenes when it comes to, you know, malicious malware stuff that's going on, making sure that your security is up to date. However, Ars Technica has been reporting on this for a while, essentially indicating that Microsoft is maybe lying or maybe misguided on this, on the fact that Windows Update update is not actually doing the right thing when it comes to the software drivers. And now they have the receipts to prove it. We'll have a link in the video description in case you care about the details. But it turns out that they have found out that Microsoft is severely overstating their actual ability to block vulnerable drivers that are coming through on Windows Update. They're not updating them on the back end and still serving vulnerable drivers to the consumers in a way that makes everybody's PC vulnerable. So if there's anything that we can take from this, kids, it's switch to Mac OS. And we're gonna switch on over to Cryptostonks. There was a little movement in the crypto market. Bitcoin up a little bit at 19,290. So the number I'm trying to say there. Ethereum up a little bit to 1306 and Dogecoin up a little bit to be at 5.8 cents. And Reece got me down on Friday because he didn't bring me UFD deals. I've been making him very busy with this whole Cannonball thing, but I better have some deals today, buddy.
Hey everyone, welcome back to UFD Deals. We're bringing the hottest tech deals out on the internet. I hope you guys had a good weekend. I'm super excited because it's Cannonball week. I hope you guys are excited for these deals as well because we have the Sennheiser HD560S. These are my go-to headphones if you're doing any kind of audio work. If I had to stick with one pair for the rest of my life, it would be these. And they're currently going for only $150.49, which is 25% off. I will recommend these every single time they come back around on sale. Speaking of a returning sale, we have the AMD Ryzen 5 5600X, which is a 6-core 12-thread CPU running at 4.6 gigahertz and comes bundled with the Razer Stealth cooler for only $193.89, which is 37% off. And last but not least, we have the Gigabyte Z690 Aorus Ultra, which is their next-gen motherboard with DDR5, PCI Express 5.0, Wi-Fi 6, and Quad M.2 slots, going for only $199.99, which is $170 off and 46% off at the moment. But don't forget, you can find these deals and more linked in the video description. I'm gonna hand you off back to Brett. Cheers.
I can't know whether I'm upset with him or not right now because the time difference. But Reece, I hope you gave us good deals. And Google Fiber wants to bring a good deal of internet to your town. They're upgrading Google Fiber to be 5 and 8 gigabit per second in early 2023 to the cities that actually have Google Fiber, and it's going to be affordable. 125 bucks a month for 5 gigabit, 150 bucks a month for 8 gigabit, which is just like, I feel good because here in Pittsburgh, I'm paying $90 a month for 1 gigabit up and down. In Florida, I think I was paying $300 for gigabit down and 30 up, and I still had to add a $50 unlimited data cap onto that, so that like my total cost was way out to wazoo. Haven't had that problem here. This makes me jealous, even though I'm in a better situation than I was a year and a half ago, and we might be in a better situation when it comes to the metaverse in about 18 months when Apple decides to bequeath us with their glorious mixed reality headset. And there's new details coming out about that. And essentially, it's going to have iris scanning. You know that little iris you have? Mine are blue, by the way. People always say I have blue eyes. They're not colorblind. Don't know why I was talking like that. Anyways, that's how they're gonna do it. It's the biometric authentication, scanning your iris to make sure that you are you, but also it's coming out that they're gonna have legs cameras, which, checkmate Meta. You think that, oh, you adding legs, which by the way, that whole thing of like Zuck jumping in the Event Horizon program that he has, yeah, it came out disclosed that that was a motion capture. They put Zuck in a motion capture suit and they were like, this is what will eventually come. Their own hardware can't even do it, but Apple might be able to do it with their legs cameras. Heck yeah, and Razer might be able to underwhelm us all with their gaming tablet thing that's trying to take on the Steam Deck and others. The Razer Edge getting announced for $399. It's an Android tablet, so it's not quite like the Logitech cloud gaming handheld that came out recently, and it's gonna have 5G included with Verizon, but it's essentially just a tablet that has like the Razer Kishi like handheld grips attached to it, which nobody uses those. Like, you don't go out onto the bus and see people doing that. They're just going to play on their phone without that thing. So the fact that it's detachable, but it's still like a little brick that you have to attach, and it's the slidey boy. I don't know if this is going to take off. $400 price point, same price as a Steam Deck, but you only get Android games and cloud gaming. It's not a great deal. If you want it, sound off down below in the comments. I'm not excited by it. And I used to get excited about AMD's mobile processors, but no more because they changed the naming scheme. But we're getting our first looks at Ryzen 7000 mobile in some benchmarks popping up. The 7530U having Zen 3 processors. It's kind of neat, but in case you don't remember, AMD changed their naming scheme earlier this year, where 7 will just mean that it's coming out this year, and then the other numbers will denote whether it's Zen 2, Zen 3, or Zen 4, because Ryzen 7000 will account for all three of those architectures, which is going to be confusing to the consumer. And it does look like the consumer's a little confused as to whether or not they should pick up AMD. And AMD is noticing, and according to reports, they are going to have to slow their production plan for their Zen 4 CPUs because people just aren't buying them. According to the report, there's a decline in the PC market and poor reception of the AM5 platform, and that the 7900X is currently their most popular chip of the new generation, which makes a lot of sense because on the one hand, AMD kind of sandbagged themselves with the 5800X 3D kind of beating out all of their chips when it comes to gaming, but then you also have that other awkward positioning where it looks like the 13th gen from Intel is actually going to be really competitive, especially when it comes to multi-core. So why would you buy AM5? Because if you want really good productivity in multi-core, you're likely at least going to be waiting till later this week to find out the benchmarks of 13th gen. And if you want the best affordable gaming CPU on the market, the 5800X 3D is calling your cell phone number. It's not the 7000 series. We already did a video, which you can check out right up there, about how AMD made this generation too expensive. It was a minimum $600 price increase just to even get a 7600X. It's a tough generation, especially if things like this are actually going to come to fruition. There's benchmarking being found out that the 13900KF is being overclocked on a B660 motherboard, which is going to be super affordable. And if you can overclock on it with the latest 13th gen, boy howdy, you've got a recipe for some affordability in that multi-core department. 6 gigahertz is what they hit on the B660F. Whether or not that's going to make its way into consumer hands where people can overclock it remains to be seen. Also, in some of the same benchmarks, it was found out the 5800X 3D also got overclocked to 5.5 gigahertz, which would be crazy if true because you're not allowed to overclock it, and that could mean even worse spelling for the AM5 platform. Like, why would anybody get Ryzen 7000 when you can overclock a 5800X 3D, or you could slap a 13900K on a slightly decent B660 and be off to the races with 24 flipping cores? I'm sure there's a reason somewhere. And my reason for ending this is that I gotta go. I gotta go prep for the Cannonball. Excited for that. Again, Friday, 9 a.m. Get your calendars ready, get your donations ready, and also be sure to join us because it's gonna be hijinks.